Today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp.com, and I've been with them for a long time. BetterHelp is an online platform where we found that you can effectively communicate with your therapist. Now, you begin by filling out a questionnaire, and then you'll be matched with a therapist within a couple of days. And if that match isn't ideal for you, you can certainly make an adjustment there. Now, you're going to be encouraged to journal, and also they have the availability for group therapy on a wide array of topics, and I really like that. So as the need exists, go ahead and take the necessary steps to get the help that you need. And just know that BetterHelp has a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, so it indeed is a platform you can trust. There's a link below the video that will take you there. We can say one thing with certainty when we talk about your relationship with a narcissist, and that is, as time goes on, really bad habits are going to arise. And it's going to just continue to go from bad to worse because narcissists, as a general rule, not only tend not to change, but when they get caught up in their patterns of narcissism with the high control and the sense of entitlement, their selfishness, that it feeds on itself and they just can't stop themselves. As a result, there's a great deal of insensitivity on their part toward you. There's a lot of anger that shows up. There's a lot of invalidation that they offer to you. And then on your side of the equation, you can have such a reaction of exasperation. You wind up being defensive. Your disbelief kicks in like, I can't believe this is happening to me. Why would somebody be this way? You have a lot of raw emotion, and then you can enter into your own counter control game with them as you become insistent and demanding in your responses towards them. Now, finally, when you begin to pull away from that individual, and this can be somebody that you've lived with, somebody that you've worked with, somebody that's in your extended family, people in a social group or inside a system that you belong to, finally you can get to the point of saying, what was I thinking? What was that Mack truck that just ran over me? What was that all about? And how did it become so sloppy? And then you can also ask, what contributions did I have to this situation where, frankly, I took it from bad to worse? How did I play into that? And by the way, the narcissist won't answer that question at all. As time passes, the biggest problem that you can have that hinders you from healing is that narcissist messages can still remain on the inside of your mind. This is part of what we refer to as the trauma bonding. They have so successfully, if you will, gotten into your head and turned your ideas of normalcy upside down that sometimes your own maladaptive patterns to the narcissist continue beyond their presence. Or your self-esteem has taken a beating, and it can be difficult for you to reclaim that. And you can have a lot of regret, and you can have cynicism, you can have bitterness that resides on the inside. Healing from a failed relationship with a narcissist is not going to be an overnight thing because there's so many ways or things that have to be sifted out. So your challenge as you go through that healing process, you're getting away from the narcissist, you're trying to go back and reclaim yourself, is what does the better version of myself look like? And you want to make sure that you anchor down in that. What are my norms? What are my standards? What values do I want to go back and pick up on? And as you do, then you can enter into a form of healing that can be quite rewarding for you. Now, this is not an overnight kind of process. One of the things as a therapist that I would remind my patients of when they would come into my office and they would tell me their sad stories, and some of them were horror stories. This didn't come about overnight, and it's not going to go away overnight. Nonetheless, it can happen. And sometimes it may be weeks, months, years, sometimes even decades before you finally get to the point where you're feeling like you're at your best place. How are we going to make that happen? Well, I like to think of it as a 5-stage process, and obviously this isn't just so perfectly cut and dried that one stage leads to stage 2. There's a lot of movement in between all of them, but 5 general stages that we need to examine so that you can go into your healing. And by the way, I'm giving you a cursory overview of this. If you want to take courses, if you want to seek counseling on your own, this can certainly be an impetus for you to know what you can look for. The first stage that you want to go into is a stage of clarification. Be clear in your mind about the narcissist's sabotaging behavior. You want to go ahead and name it. And this is not you being judgmental. This is not you being accusational and pointing that finger at that person. It's just a matter of saying, I need to put it down on paper, so to speak, and understand what I was up against. That person wanted to fit me into an agenda. They required my deference. They wanted to have dominance over me. There was a strong demand mentality that's there. It's your job to prop up my ego is the message that the narcissist had sent to you. It's necessary for you to realize that narcissist brought some completely inappropriate anger toward you. And it's not wrong for you to call it out and say, this is wrong, this is awful, this was completely inappropriate, this is dysfunctional. That person is closed off from insight, as evidenced, I'm sure, by the fact of you trying to explain yourself and feeling like you were getting absolutely nowhere. And the narcissist was heavily invested in making you look inept and foolish. And unfortunately, sometimes they succeeded. Now, keep in mind, all the while, they were looking pretty inept and foolish, but they don't want to get into that part. Taking it a little bit further, the second stage that's part of your healing is to take an honest inventory about your contributions to the collapse of the relationship. And this is not a matter of trying to place blame on you. Instead, this is a matter of you trying to develop some objectivity. Okay, I know that I wasn't at my best. What came out of me that I need to take a hard look at? For example, you might say to yourself, you know what? That narcissist had some anger issues. Well, it pulled my anger out of me too, and I'm not real proud of how that played out. Or I kept pushing for the narcissist to change. And you can go back and you can see that you had a lot of insistent and persuasive communication with that individual, or you had that wishful thinking that the person would change. You can remind yourself, I was way too easily stuck in a foul mood. I had depression or anxiety or tension or annoyance or irritability that was just real close to the surface. It didn't take much to pull it out of. I became a shell of my preferred self. I lost my core values sometimes. There might be times when you look back and think, I'm not proud of the way that I manage things. I began drinking too much, or I wound up pulling away from my friends, or I let bad habits come in. My defenses were too strong. I worked too hard to have to justify myself. Those would be some of the things you would look at. And many people can say, yeah, when I was with that narcissist, I lost who I really was. And it's okay for you to say, I have regrets. The narcissist can't say that. Well, I don't regret anything. That's what they say. Well, I do have regrets, and name it and be honest about it. A third stage that's part of your healing, and that is you want to ask, well, what are the lessons that I have learned about the narcissist, and specifically narcissism in general? And it's important for you to hone in on this, because the narcissist wants to make sure you think it's all your fault. But the more you look into this, the more you realize, I'm learning now that narcissistic person, despite their bravado and their exaggerated confidence, that's a profoundly insecure person. That person had absurd justifications for who they were and how they rationalized their need for control or their superior status. They didn't have any kind of objectivity whatsoever. That individual refused to be responsible. The only thing they wanted to do was blame, and that implies their refusal to be responsible. That implies fear. They're threatened by saying, I was wrong. That scares them to death. And in addition, they have a strong need for a scapegoat, which implies shame-based thinking. They don't want to look at their own shame, so they have to have somebody to place their shame onto you, and much of that is their projection of their unfinished business. So be objective about the lessons that emerged about the narcissist. And then also, stage number 4 is examine the lessons that you've learned about yourself. For example, you can say, I became way too invested in having that narcissist's approval toward me. What's that all about? Or my anger can be too strong, and I need to examine why is that. And obviously, your anger is not necessarily wrong, but sometimes you could hold on to it to the point where it became dysfunctional. I became secretive, and I didn't want that person to know who I really was. And again, I can appreciate you don't want to expose everything just to get clobbered. But why would you enter into too much of that secretive nature? What's that all about? Sometimes you might be devious, etc. And then you can also ask, well, I actually have learned a lot about my management of boundaries, and sometimes I didn't manage my boundaries very well. Keeping in mind, by the way, that boundary starts with you having a good definition of yourself and then living inside that definition. But too many times you wanted to get that other person to coordinate with you when it wasn't going to happen. And of course, you can say, yeah, and through all the process there, my own insecurities were exposed, and they sometimes were in charge. And then the 5th stage of healing from a failed relationship with a narcissist is commit to your healthy initiatives. I'm hoping you can decide, now that I can see what true dysfunction looks like, I don't want to have any part of that moving forward. The narcissist is going to continue staying inside your head until you finally say, you know what, enough. I see what that was all about, and I'm no longer going to filter my behaviors, my attitudes, my decisions through the narcissist. Despite the narcissist proclamations, I'm not who the narcissist says I am. I make sense. I matter. It's not just okay for me to be who I am. It's necessary. And I'm hoping that you can put a healthy emphasis on your own good conflict resolution skills. The narcissist brought out the worst there. I'm hoping you can determine that you're going to have clean anger, low defense, calm firmness when you do stand up for yourself. Allow yourself to grieve. Don't try to be above it all. The narcissist isn't going to do that, but who cares? I mean, be what you need to be. And then seek connection with like-minded souls, people that know how to be vulnerable. They know how to empathize with you. They also are seeking healthy and clean ways of engaging. So, like I say, this is not a quick and overnight kind of thing, but I'm hoping that, as you can see, there are stages. There are elements that you can go into where you break the bonds with that narcissist and you can succeed. When you have examined your tensions cleanly, when you turn your insights into healthy initiatives, one huge truth is going to eventually emerge as you move forward, and that is, so this is what it means to be free. Now, I hope that videos like this can give you some good food for thought and can help you as you go through the healing process. I so appreciate you allowing me to be on your journey with you. If you have not already hit that subscribe button, please do so. We're going to keep more of these kind of videos coming towards you. Now, as I alluded, it may be that you'll have a need as you're trying to sift this out for some sort of therapy. If you have a therapist in your area, I would strongly encourage you to seek that out. Sometimes you don't know who to turn to. And the good news is we have a sponsor, the people at BetterHelp.com, who can help you. It's an online therapy resource. There's a whole team of licensed professional therapists. All you have to do is go through the link that we have provided beneath the video, answer a few questions, and you get to select a therapist that can assist you. And we found that can be a very effective way of dealing with it. As is warranted, please seek the help that you need. Now, on top of that, I have put together some courses, and they're very extensive. And the average cost of the course, would be the cost of maybe 2 therapy sessions. But each course has at least 25 teaching videos and handouts and guided questions. We have them on boundaries, on anger management, on healthy connections, finding yourself despite the narcissist control. We also have my webinars, which are 90-minute PowerPoint presentations, along with my articles and my books, lots of resources. So as you look back and think that relationship did not bring out the best in me, hope is there, and I'm hoping you can tap into that. And in doing so, that can be your way of saying, I'm committed to being a person of peace.